Rather than keep the canoes waiting, we'll try and move this program along. I want to thank everybody for being here to remember and celebrate John Lynn's very long life. On behalf of my mom, Helen, who's over here on this side, and all the rest of our family, thank you for coming. I just want to let you know sort of what's happening, what to expect here. After just a few comments on this day, we are going to, with the incredible escort, including the very rare privilege of being in the company of the Malia, the surf club's classic koa canoe that predated the Waikiki Surf Club, which was born in the same year that I was born. So that is a vintage classic canoe. They will, the Malia will carry my dad's ashes out, accompanied by the Nadu K2, which was the boat he owned for 40 years, which originally belonged to Duke Kahanamoku and has now been gifted to the Waikiki Yacht Club, which is where Duke took first possession of it. It was delivered right here to him at the yacht club. And there are also 2 escort boats, and now we've learned we have a third large 30-foot boat that's available to escort. And so actually anybody who thinks you would like to go out as the ashes are being scattered, we'll find a place for you. Refreshments are going to be served about the time as the canoes and the boats go out, and I hope that you'll either stay around and join us or come back and join us. And if you need something stronger than punch, we got it for you waiting. As you may know, for the last 2 years, my dad was in a nursing home suffering from Alzheimer's and what they called vascular dementia. He was basically losing his mind slowly, and his body was shutting down around him. During that time, I had the great privilege of taking his pack rat collection of papers and things that were jammed in boxes and drawers and piles, and trying to sort through them. As a result, I probably know him better now than I ever did in my life, any other part of my life, and I wrote about that voyage into his history and into dementia in my blog, if you ever get there, ilyn.net. I have a few cards there at the table that have the address if you want to check in on what I've been writing for the last 2 years as we went through this experience. John lived a real long life. You know, he died just weeks before his 97th birthday. He enjoyed a business career that stretched for 66 years. Not many people can say that. He retired at 85. When I thought about it, I realized he was a businessman who believed that you made a deal by giving your word and shaking hands. Now, I always thought that was because he was too cheap to hire a lawyer to make contracts. But it turns out it was also because he wanted to believe in the people he did business with. He was lucky enough to be the right person in the right place at the right time to make a tremendous contribution to the development of the sports of surfing and canoe paddling in Hawaii. I just tried to describe some of those things he did in the little handout on the back page. Many of the positions that in which he served so many organizations. He died, as I say, just weeks short of his 97th birthday. For 94 of those nearly 97 years, he was still active, still driving down here to the harbor to get on his boat, still taking fishing trips on the Nadu K2, still mowing the lawn at home, picking mangoes, gardening. He quit riding his bicycle only a few years before. My friend Roy Yampuku, who I've known since elementary school, used to see him riding around Kahala on his bike right up until he was past 90, until he was too dizzy to do that. He wasn't much of a churchgoer, although he was raised in this strict Scottish Presbyterian family on the West Coast. So I'm letting Bonnie save the prayers for when the ashes go in the water. I am a fan of the Quaker tradition, which uses silence as a shared silence as a form of worship. So if you would, just for a minute, join me in that brief moment of silence to remember John, and during this minute you can give thanks for his life in whatever way you care to. Join me in silence. I won't go for a whole minute because a minute can seem a very long time in silence. Bonnie, I'm going to ask my sister Bonnie to come up and to say a few words.
I'm not as tall as he is. Ian has written very eloquently about our father and the things that he did in his professional life and in his life as a member of the community and his contributions to the community and the business world. I never really knew him in that capacity. To me, it was always Daddy. He was the one that usually took me to the beach when I was a little kid. I kind of grew out of that when I got old enough to want to do my own things. He was the one that took me hiking, although sometimes our mother joined us and it was a family event. There were the several times that we walked up a ridge, one of those ridges that we could see out the kitchen window from the house in Kahala, look up up on the ridge line, and there was I don't know whether it was a gun emplacement. There was a water tower tank, a big water supply tank up there too. Now those are all hidden by houses. Amazing. I chuckle every time I think of the friends that I met through my father. I must have been 5 or 6 years old, if that, one Sunday morning when he took me up to go pick up a friend of his. Well, I knew Gene Smith was a friend. The name was around the house all the time. It was somebody that I knew about. I've discovered since then that he was a well-known, very powerful surfer, paddler, probably the first one to paddle inter-island. And where did we go to find Gene? Well, this involved a drive up to the very back end of Manoa Valley and a hike up along the stream to the falls. And then it seems to me like we went alongside or behind the falls somehow or another, where Gene was living in a cave. And I came back and said to myself, and I've said many times since then, he knew all kinds of people. He was a friend of all kinds of people. We have had a kind of a love-hate relationship in most of my adult life. He was busy doing some things. I was busy doing something else. Of course, 40 years living on the mainland doesn't bring you very close to people living in Hawaii either. But in the last 2.5 years, I've been home, and I've been with both my parents. And I'm glad I've had this opportunity. And I didn't feel like I would be so adrift. I'm going to miss him, as we all are. Thank you for being here and for sharing this time.
Thank you. Jackie?
Hi. My father did not have to be a part of my life. Some of you who know the situation know, but for the first few years, is my understanding, he wasn't. But at a certain age, he did come around, and I'm here today to thank him and acknowledge him for being a great father to me. His involvement in my life has made all the difference. I went on to do well in school, something he was very proud of. I'm now married to this incredibly great hunky guy over there. I'm not sure things would have turned out this way if I hadn't known him. And I just have a little anecdote, one of my memories of him. There was one day when he dropped me off at preschool. I guess I was 4, so I was being bullied by one of the other girls, and so I didn't want to go. I don't think I was able to really articulate why I didn't want to go. All my dad knew was that I wasn't getting out of the car. Not knowing what else to do and wanting to tread gently on the emotions of a 4-year-old, he took me for a walk in the rose garden near Kapiolani Park. I remember him pointing out the different plants to me. He called the taro leaves elephant ears. He helped me take my mind off of the challenges of preschool, and it's my understanding I eventually went to school, albeit somewhat late. This was before I knew he was my dad, and so it's no surprise that I always liked him. He gave generously of his time. He refrained from criticizing me. He supported me in every way. He was dependable. He was incredibly punctual. And it's because of his involvement in my life that his spirit will live in me. His frugality, his simplicity, his running, his distrust of doctors and pharmaceuticals, his passive aggressiveness, all live in me. Thank you.
Well, we have canoes standing by and boats. Now, some of you know you're going in. Those who know you're going in one of the canoes, come on forward. Stand Chemo and Christy. Christy is Bonnie's father and Chemo's son.
These are actually his only grandchildren.
You're going out. Sandra and Jeff, come on along. Straight down the dock. You guys are going to pick up, right?
Malia. So great. Yeah, he was worth it. He was worth it. Malia was in the first Molokai. Yeah. Everybody was scared of paddle. They thought it couldn't be done. Couldn't be done.
Sorry, my foot's slipping.
What's up? Aloha!
Would you like to finish the job?
No, go ahead.
Should I do some on the other side too?
Well, my favorite. Oh, look at that. Okay. You had partying back there or what?
Shane, play!
Grandson is competing in the stand-up paddling with these guys.
glass of wine or a beer? Refreshments are served. And open bar.
On Ian.
Thanks.
Ah, nothing to it, Ian. You kidding me?
Well, anyway, this was, I thought.